Hovering in the skies of the Purple Flame territory, Vaan and Valefor continued to spar and learn from each other. They both understood each other had their strengths and weaknesses. In Vaan's case, his weakness was that he had not achieved the realm of muscle memory. The realm of muscle memory was a state of mind that required constant polishing to maintain. After all, new knowledge was learned every day. Without absorbing the knowledge properly, it would consume more time and energy to use. It was similar to the difference between a messy folder and an organized folder. Information from the organized folder was quicker and easier to find. Meanwhile, Valefor did not seem to have any apparent weakness after mastering control of his true divinity-level body. He had polished his realm of muscle memory and entered the realm of minute subtlety. However, that didn't mean he couldn't improve further. For example, if he could learn Vaan's level of foresight, his combat prowess would be able to improve a step further. The ability to predict the opponent's actions based on information from their six senses was something Valefor found lacking compared to Vaan. After all, he was never the intelligent type and was more of the instinctual kind. That was why he had much to learn from Vaan in this aspect. Valefor also believed he would be able to master this ability as long as he fought and observed the person. What's the matter, other me? Why are you evading me? Are you not confident in your close combat skills anymore? Valefor goaded after seeing Vaan avoid him. Although he had a newfound appreciation for Vaan, it did not change the fact that beating the person also felt very satisfying. It was almost like an addictive drug, urging him for more. However, Vaan knew he was temporarily at a disadvantage. Thus, he did not give Valefor such satisfaction. Otherwise, he would have to eat his earlier words. Nevertheless, while Vaan was dodging Valefor's attacks, he was also learning from his utilization of the laws. Unlike Vaan, who wielded several laws for several different purposes, Valefor mainly used one law for all. Even Valefor's flight ability was achieved through the clever utilization of the Azura law. By coating himself in a thin layer of Azura power, he cut off the world's gravity. A second layer of Azura power was further added to alternate between removing the air resistance or strengthening it by cutting its opposite property. The first layer of Azura power was enough to achieve levitation, but the second layer granted speed and versatility. Moreover, it seemed such thin layers of Azura power were Valefor's method of optimizing his soul power consumption. After all, he did not need to remove gravity from the whole region, he only needed to exclude himself from the world's gravity. It was clear that his current flight ability was the result of countless years of refinement and improvement. Nevertheless, it also showed that a single law could do many things, if not everything. The only limit was one's imagination and knowledge. That said, Vaan doubted other divine beings could achieve the same mastery in other laws. He believed it also had to do with the fact that the Azura law was an origin law, which had transcended the heavens due to the Lord of Chaos stepping into beyond true divinity. Did my last hit turn you into a timid cat? Do you think you can run forever, other me? How about you stop being a pussy and face me? Valefor provoked Vaan again, feeling a little impatient with his misses. However, contrary to his repeated provocation, Vaan did not continue evading Valefor's attacks. He suddenly turned around and faced him head-on with a bright smile. Ding! You have achieved the realm of muscle memory. You have reached the realm of minute subtlety. Having fought Valefor on two different fronts, Vaan had rapidly completed his training for what he was lacking. Not only had he been facing Valefor in reality, but he had also used the battle experience to simulate thousands of different mental battles in his mind. Thus, even if it had only been an hour of sparring between them, it felt more like months of accumulated sparring to Vaan. Pung! Pung! In the instance two fists collided with each other, Valefor's spirited expression immediately stiffened. His fist gave way to stronger force as Vaan's fists accelerated and struck him squarely in the face. It was as if he had been struck with two fists in a single motion. The brute force immediately sent him flying over 10 kilometers. Moments later, Valefor returned to Vaan's location with an ugly expression. You cheated. The only reason Valefor lost in the exchange of blows when their strength should have been equal was because Vaan's fist had actually been a stage higher in power. Ding! You have used Celestial Dragon Wolf transformation. All physical attributes have been raised by one stage. Strength, first stage Divine Knight level, second stage Divine Knight level. Defense, first stage Divine Knight level, second stage Divine Knight level. Speed, first stage Divine Knight level, second stage Divine Knight level. Vaan ignored Valefor's accusation and charged at him again, causing the latter to defend himself hurriedly. Pung! Valefor was still a step slower due to the difference in their speed. His body shot straight into the ground and produced a sizable crater from the strong impact. Shortly after, Valefor shot out of the crater with a furious look. What the hell are you doing now? If you're going to raise your strength, you should have at least lifted my cultivation by a stage as well. Valefor thundered. Now, why would I do that? Vaan nonchalantly replied before saying, I have already achieved the results I wanted from this training session, so now it's my turn to help you. Help me? More like bully me, right? Valefor snarled. Sigh, I'm hurt, other me. How can you mistake my kind intentions? Vaan replied with exaggerated sadness before saying, I am helping you learn how to fight people above your level. Bullshit. You just want to enjoy beating me up. Valefor furiously replied. However, Vaan shook his head with a sigh again. Shortly after, he immediately looked at Valefor solemnly. You are my trump card, other me. If you can't beat opponents at the same level, how can I expect you to defeat enemies above your level? You need to be like me, a first-stage divine warrior who can contend with second-stage divine knights. Tui. Don't be unreasonable, other me. Your bullshit strength simply doesn't make any sense at all. Do you think everyone can be like you? Valefor coldly spat. Previous index next. Vaan's heaven-defying battle power was something Valefor had never seen or heard of before. Even if the Holy Lands were to raise extreme geniuses, their heaven-defying battle power wouldn't exceed 5 stages above their cultivation level. On the other hand, Vaan's heaven-defying battle power was an entire realm above his cultivation level. If he could also maintain such heaven-defying battle power, he would practically be invincible in every realm the moment he advanced to them. Such a genius was unprecedented in the history of chaos. Even if such geniuses used to exist, they could only have existed during the primordial era when the birth of chaos had yet to rewrite the heavenly laws. Under the new heavenly laws, could such heaven-defying geniuses still exist? Although Valefor had personally seen the invisible shackles of the heavenly laws shatter when Vaan was forging his divine body, he still couldn't believe it. What special abilities did Vaan have to shatter the shackles in the first place? Or was it the special environment of the profound pearl of life that made it possible? Even if he did tank the heavenly punishment for Vaan, Valefor felt like new, stronger shackles of the heavenly law would have bound him in place. After all, would the heavens allow him to continue trekking down further on the path of defying it? Nevertheless, Valefor understood he wouldn't be able to replicate the same feat, at least not in his present state. His understanding of the Azura law was still lacking for now. However, in the future, he might be able to break the shackles of the heavenly law with his Azura law. That said, even though Valefor had no way of achieving Vaan's degree of heaven-defying battle power, it was still possible to beat people way above his level. After getting pummeled left and right by Vaan in his bloodline transformation state, Valefor eventually became fed up with the status quo. You want to see how I beat people above my level, other me? Fine. I'll let you see. Valefor roared. Shortly after Valefor pulled out the myriad fire spirit flag, Vaan immediately felt a chill. He could sense the dangerous power sleeping within it. The power of the eternal purple flame could definitely slay those below true divinity. However, Vaan didn't expect Valefor to be so capable. He actually refined a divine artifact capable of wielding the eternal purple flame. Io, now that's cheating. Vaan cried, immediately retreating a huge distance from Valefor. Heh, Valefor smirked before saying, this is cheating, and your transformation isn't? This bloodline transformation is a part of my ability. Since it's part of my power, how can it be considered cheating? Your divine artifact, on the other hand, isn't part of your power, Vaan coolly stated. But I refined it, and that is my ability. So, it counts. Valefor coldly argued. Alright, you win. You have certainly proven yourself. Let us end the spar here. It is meaningless to continue, Vaan shrugged nonchalantly before smiling. Can you also refine a divine artifact for me since you are so capable? If you let me pummel you a few times, I might consider it, Valefor coldly stated, feeling slightly pleased with Vaan's attitude. However, Vaan's smile quickly disappeared. Only consider it? Do you think I'm an idiot? I was asking nicely because I didn't want to steal your flag. Since you don't appreciate my consideration, I'll just take your flag then, Vaan said menacingly. Ridiculous. Valefor sneered and said, this myriad fire spirit flag was refined and bound by me. Even if you take it, you can't use it. Moreover, it has its spirit. Are you sure you want to try risking your life to steal it from me, other me? Valefor asked with a cold smile. I am you, and you are me. However, your will is ultimately my will. Do you think your artifact spirit will still harm me if I make you command it not to? Vaan calmly stated. Ha ha ha. Valefor suddenly laughed maniacally before replying furiously, do you think your threat will work on me? Who do you think I am? What kind of status do you think I have? What kind of divine artifact do you want? Any specifications? Vaan paused for a moment before smiling with amusement. Valefor sure changed his face quickly. It seemed he really liked his black flag. I just recently obtained the divine weapon refining art from the succubus queen. How about I just teach that to you, and you let me off the hook? What do you say? Valefor tried to negotiate after seeing Vaan smiling without saying anything. He felt a little anxious due to his silence. Alright, fine. I'll teach you the divine weapon refining art and refine a divine artifact for you, okay? Valefor added shortly after. Vaan decided to continue his silence, curious to see what else Valefor would say. As a result, Valefor gritted his teeth and said, actually, if your demands aren't too great, you won't need me to refine it for you personally. There are a couple hundred dark dwarves I've brought over to the Evernight territory from the Red Song territory. They are skilled craftsmen and can refine divine weapons of any specifications for you, Valefor stated. The dark dwarves from the Red Song territory, huh? What have you been planning while I was busy preparing to forge my divine body? Vaan asked with narrowed eyes. However, he didn't give Valefor time to reply before saying, never mind. Taking a look myself will be faster. Under Vaan's will, information regarding Valefor's recent activities flowed into his mind. In a short instance, Vaan found out about everything Valefor had been doing since he entered Gehenna. At the same time, Vaan also found out about Valefor's plans for multiple realm wars. Valefor wasn't just planning to start a realm war with the Nightmare Realm, he was also hoping to join the bigger kingdom war between the Skymagia Star Kingdom and the Divine Sun Star Kingdom that would erupt in 3 years. In the original timeline, Gehenna did not participate in the Kingdom War between the Skymagia Star Kingdom and the Divine Sun Star Kingdom due to Hecate's special status. At the same time, the Valefor of that time was still developing his powers in Pangaea. However, now that the timeline had been rewinded and Valefor possessed the strength of a half-step Divine Lord, Vaan could see why Valefor was eager to join. Someone like Valefor lived on the battlefield and thrived through slaughter. Interesting, Vaan uttered with a thoughtful look before glancing at Valefor. You sure have been busy the past 10 days. Previous index next. Moon Colony, Pure Mana Zone. During the past 2 weeks since Vaan disappeared, thousands of Black Rose citizens have received the opportunity to visit the pure mana-rich subterranean region on the other side of the moon's dimensional rift. With each passing day, the development of space exploration and the moon colony grew faster, allowing more and more Black Rose citizens to enter the pure mana zone for training. More than 100 witches from the earliest batches had already advanced to the peak stage high witch rank, while 5,000 witches from the later batches had all reached the early stage high witch rank at least. For peak stage senior witches who have been stuck at their bottleneck for more than 10 years, it only took them a maximum of 24 hours to achieve a breakthrough to the high witch rank. The record holder was a peak stage senior witch who advanced in under an hour. However, the battle witch who did it was also someone who had been stuck at the peak stage senior witch rank for more than 250 years. On the other hand, peak stage senior witches with fewer years of experience took up to a maximum of 72 hours to achieve the same result. During this period, Henrietta, Astoria, and Inauz also brought their own people to cultivate a group of talented elites to govern their countries and operate the Shadow Witch Order. In particular, the Shadow Witch Order required the most talent due to the high-risk espionage work in foreign countries. As such, Inauz's Shadow Witch Order was given a priority quota of 500 out of the limited slots. Nevertheless, the current moon colony had already expanded its capacity limit to 100,000 people. Once the entire wreckage of the old Moon Core colony was restored, the Moon Core colony's capacity limit could expand up to 2 million people. Moreover, this wasn't accounting for the moon base under construction on the surface. Ever since the divine soil that contained the divine tree of life's essence was discovered, crop cultivation on the moon's surface had progressed very rapidly. In fact, it was too fast that it wasn't possible to build a dome to contain all of its oxygen and spirit energy production. Doing so would only cause a great tragedy. After all, before the oxygen and spirit energy levels could reach the state of causing the dome to explode, everyone living under the dome would already be dead. The ever-increasing pressure would kill everyone through oxygen poisoning or spirit energy poisoning. As such, the moon colonists had no choice but to cultivate most of the crops in an open environment. As for the crops with the dome habitat, periodic dome openings were necessary to release the elevated pressure and maintain safety levels. Unfortunately, most of the oxygen and spirit energy dumping would be lost to space. The moon did not have enough mass to form an atmosphere like Pangaea. That said, it wasn't impossible to create it artificially through large-scale magic and formations. However, that was a problem too early for the colonists to tackle. After all, the moon base did not lack food or living space, it lacked people, which was limited by the Heaven Reacher and the space station's capacity potential to send them all there. Otherwise, the moon colonies would be constantly filled to full capacity, and the development of space exploration and moon colonization would achieve even more rapid progress. In addition to the citizens of the Black Rose Empire, special moon entries were also given to important people of the Holy Knight Empire and the Great Rathalos Empire. On the other hand, the newer members of the United Nations were only granted brief visitation rights to the space station. It was only enough for them to confirm the existence of spirit energy and bring the news back to their countries. Nevertheless, everyone spoke positively after personally experiencing the miraculous effect of spirit energy. It was a source of energy that could allow men to compete with the witches' mainstream cultivation of mana. Once the news spread, more unaffiliated countries considered joining the United Nations, allowing the Black Rose Empire to cement its position as a new superpower on the continent. Its distance to hegemony became closer after the Great Rathalos Empire intervened in the messy political situation of the Nine Kingdoms Alliance and brought the Eastern Wind Kingdom under its control. Of course, it was the Eastern Wind Kingdom that reached out to the Great Rathalos Empire first to seek its help. After all, the Eastern Wind Kingdom had been pressured and exploited by the other 8 kingdoms in the alliance due to its weaker strength. As such, the Eastern Wind Kingdom offered the Great Rathalos Empire its loyalty in exchange for pulling it away from the Nine Kingdoms Alliance's control. Ultimately, the rest of the 8 kingdoms in the Nine Kingdoms Alliance capitulated to join the United Nations. They had subordinated themselves to the Black Rose Empire and Holy Knight Empire out of fear of the Eastern Wind Kingdom relying on the Great Rathalos Empire to seek revenge for past grievances. However, the Eastern Wind Kingdom had no such intentions. King Herman Winston of the Eastern Wind Kingdom was happy enough that his country could rid itself of the tumor eating away at its economy. Nevertheless, Emperor Vaan was still considered a wise ruler. He knew the loyalty it earned from the Eastern Wind Kingdom was not reliable because it lacked sincerity and was forced out of necessity. As such, he provided the Eastern Wind Kingdom with manpower and resources to help develop its marine business and restore its economy. Under such generosity, the Eastern Wind Kingdom became ever grateful to the Great Rathalos Empire. It didn't cost much to Emperor Vaan, but it was an unforgettable act of kindness to the people of the Eastern Wind Kingdom. The people also started to wonder why their country hadn't joined the Great Rathalos Empire sooner, given that it was treated so well compared to the Nine Kingdoms Alliance. On another front, the Freedom Federation had become especially anxious due to the lack of progress in its negotiation with the Black Rose Empire. After all, the cards it had for negotiating were weakening as the Black Rose Empire's position grew stronger over time. Henrietta had found all kinds of reasons and excuses to delay and postpone their negotiations. Henrietta knew that the longer she delayed the meeting with the Freedom Federation, the stronger her negotiating position would be. Moreover, she was not too interested in the Freedom Federation since it had only expressed its intention to enter an alliance with the Black Rose Empire and not join the United Nations as a vassal country. After all, what kind of era did the Freedom Federation still think it was for it to make such an offer? Henrietta was displeased by the Freedom Federation's arrogance. If the Freedom Federation still thought it was the central figure of the human race and believed it could regain its dominance, then it was simply delusional. It was impossible for the Freedom Federation to catch up with the United Nations. In fact, Henrietta felt it was ridiculous that so many countries had yet to join the United Nations when they had so many benefits to offer. Why was it so difficult to unite the human race when there was a bigger threat on a grand scale? Why must humans continue to compete with each other? It was because they were ill-informed. In the face of change, they did not find it easy to embrace it with acceptance. Instead, they feared it with strong distrust due to the unknown. Many countries were used to the comfort of their independent governance and did not understand the benefits of joining the United Nations. They were afraid they would be deprived of their basic rights and be treated less than human if they fell under the control of another country. History has shown how poor the conditions had been for defeated countries. As such, it was also difficult to change history. To rectify this situation, Henrietta created a public interview and utilized recording technology to help spread the information in it. Furthermore, to give credibility to the public interviewed, she personally attended the interview as a guest to answer the questions. She went a step further and also invited foreign guests to ask their questions. Of the invitation sent, Emperor Vaan of the Great Rathalos Empire and King Herman Winston of the Eastern Wind Kingdom on the United Nations side came personally. Because of their presence, the interview almost became a political meeting between world leaders. Alas, no one else of the same status came from the Divine League and Freedom Federation. After all, the situation in the United Nations seemed uncertain to the rest of the world. No one could be sure that the invitation to the interview session was a ploy to capture the world leaders as hostages. As such, the Divine League only sent 3 representatives, while the Freedom Federation sent 10 people. There were also a few other representatives from smaller countries attending. If not for the great distance to other countries in the southern half of Pangaea, more foreign representatives would have attended. A total of 20 foreign guests had gathered in 5 days. Today was the day of the public interview, held in an open space venue with seats, tables, food, and drinks provided. It seemed more like a conference and less like an interview, given the number of attendees. Recording magic tools were also set up around the outside of the open venue. Once everything was ready, Henrietta gestured to the foreign guests to ask their questions. Your Majesty, what is your Black Rose Empire trying to achieve by establishing the United Nations? A male representative of the Freedom Federation immediately asked a serious question. I don't think such an obvious answer needs to be said. However, for the sake of this interview, I will answer, as everyone has already guessed, we are trying to unify all human countries under one banner, Henrietta calmly admitted. A murmured discussion immediately started among the group of foreign guests as they whispered to each other at their group tables. Although everyone knew the answer to the question, they still had to hear it personally. Nevertheless, only Emperor Vaan and King Herman kept their silence. Why do you want to unify the human countries, Your Majesty? Is it simply for world domination? Or something more noble? Another male representative from the Freedom Federation asked with a sly smile. Regardless of which answer Henrietta gave, he was prepared to make her country look bad. However, Henrietta soon gave an answer that he did not expect. World domination? Something noble? That's hard to say. It could be world domination or it could be something noble. It could even be both, Henrietta stated vaguely. However, that's not for me to say. Whether it is the Black Rose Empire or the other members of the United Nations, we are only following the will of my husband, Vaan Rafna. Only he could give you the answer you seek to that question. What I can tell you, though, is that while we are trying to unite humanity for a good cause, we are also not running a charity here, Henrietta added. What do you mean by those words, Your Majesty? A male representative from the Divine League asked with a frown. What I mean is exactly that, we will try to save Pangaeans from a possible extinction posed by outside threats. However, we won't do it for free, and we will definitely not care about those who don't want to pay the price to be saved, Henrietta seriously stated. Her words immediately drew frowns on the face of every foreign guest. Even King Herman of the Eastern Wind Kingdom frowned despite having already entered the United Nations. Only Emperor Vaan showed no visible change in his expression. He only came today as a listener. Thus, he didn't have any opinion to express. As far as I know, if Gehenna wanted to wipe us out, they would have done it long ago, the male representative from the Divine League immediately mentioned. Even if the Great Devils suddenly changed their minds due to Great Devil Abaddon's death, it would have nothing to do with us. Thus, when the wrath of the Great Devils descends, it would only be on your United Nations. A lot of humans might die as a result, but it won't be all of us. So, I don't know where this so-called threat of extinction you mentioned comes from, Your Majesty, the Divine League. Representative questioned. Henrietta glanced at him and sneered, that's because you are ignorant. Do you think Pangaea and Gehenna are the only worlds in this universe and the next? If you knew how frequent wars between realms break out on Gehenna's side, you realize how fleeting your life is. However, that kind of threat is still nothing compared to the hidden threat we face on our side. Henrietta strongly stated. In that instant, Emperor Vaan lost his calmness as he was startled by her words. At the same time, he quickly understood why King Herman and he, members of the United Nations were also invited to this public interview for foreign countries. Some important information on the hidden threat was about to be revealed. Previous index next. Your Majesty, what kind of hidden threat are you talking about? Did you discover something in the Sea of Stars? A quiet representative of the Silverwing Duchy hurriedly asked. Indeed, we did find something terrifying, Henrietta nodded before saying, we found the ruins of an ancient supercivilization that once existed before us. However, what threatens the survival of our species is not this ancient supercivilization but whatever destroyed it. Based on our clues, we have also come to believe the destroyer of the supercivilization is still out there, within the Sea of Stars. More importantly, they are definitely not the friendly type, they are a type of anti-life existence we currently refer to as outer beings, existences that do not belong to our universe. We don't know how they came or why they are anti-life. However, we do know they will kill any life in sight. The great devils of Gehenna are only ants compared to them. Boom. Henrietta's claim was like thunder to everyone's ears, shaking up their minds greatly. It was too shocking to believe. In fact, most of the foreign guests preferred to believe Henrietta was just being an alarmist and feeding them false information. After all, what better way was there to promote the unification of humanity than to say there was an extinction-level threat waiting to annihilate them? Do you have any proof to back up your claim, Your Majesty? The Silverwing Duchy representative gulped. Although he didn't want to believe it, his Silverwing Duchy was a small city-state that didn't belong to any alliances or unions. As such, it would be difficult for it to survive on its own if such a great threat really existed. Proof? I don't need to prove anything to you, Henrietta shrugged before stating, the proof you seek has always been in the starry sky, hidden in plain sight. Astrology is a study of stars as old as time. Study records and paintings of the starry sky have appeared as early as the first stage of humanity's awakening of intelligence and pursuit of knowledge. You only need to dig them up and compare the starry sky of the distant past to the current era to realize how many stars have already disappeared through the passage of time. So many stars don't just vanish like this at once, they were destroyed by the outer beings. Moreover, this is only accounting for the dead stars we can observe. It's hard to say how many more stars in the skies seem like they are still shining but are, in fact, already dead, Henrietta stated. Due to the vast distance between Pangaea and other stars in the universe, the stars could have been dead millions of years ago and still appear to be shining in the night sky of Pangaea due to the limits of light speed. Nevertheless, it would be horrifying if all the observable stars in the night sky were actually dead stars. That would be painting the illusion of the universe looking fine when it was actually not. Ka-cha. A teacup fell on the ground and shattered as a representative from Freedom Federation's table stood up abruptly with a startling and horrific realization. It was Director Gardner from the Starry Steel Research Tower. He had joined the interview to look for an opportunity to meet Henrietta for negotiations between their countries. However, such ideas were already pushed to the back of his mind. At the moment, he only had a fervent desire for answers regarding the disappearing stars. After all, he had studied astrology all his life. The disappearing stars were something he had noticed a long time ago. He also understood the logic of dead stars still shining in the sky. However, he never would have thought the disappearing stars would be a result of artificial destruction. He had only assumed the universe was nearing the end of its lifespan. Thus, more stars were suddenly dying of old age. Unfortunately, that was only wishful thinking compared to the more terrifying possibility Henrietta suggested. Her perspective was far too frightening to imagine. I am Director Gardner from the Freedom Federation's Starry Steel Research Tower. I can confirm what Empress Henrietta said regarding the disappearing stars is true. Director Gardner quickly introduced himself and vouched for Henrietta after attracting everyone's attention with the shattered teacup. As an upright person, he had to point out the facts. If they were true, he wouldn't hide them. How can that be? It is actually true. Anxiety and dread immediately seeped into the hearts of the foreign guests as they panicked. Since an authoritative person from the Freedom Federation had spoken, how could they still doubt Henrietta's credibility? Your Majesty, the disappearing stars are undeniable events. I also have to admit your claim is reasonable if such powerful anti-life entities exist. However, how do you know for sure that these so-called outer beings are responsible for the star's destruction? Director Gardner looked at Henrietta as a person sincerely seeking knowledge. He was not purposely making things difficult for her. However, Henrietta shook her head. That's confidential information, I can't tell you how I know, as that's related to a secret of mine, Henrietta said. However, I can tell you something else instead. My husband has already encountered one of these outer beings when he first visited the moon. Although it was only the weakest possible outer being, it was still an outer being. This kind of anti-life entity hunted him on sight and only stopped when it couldn't detect his life signals, Henrietta explained. Oh. Can you tell us more about this encounter with the outer being in detail, Your Majesty? Director Gardner expressed his astonishment and curiosity. If you want to hear more about the outer beings we encountered in detail, you can wait for the Outer Space Conference we'll be holding a week later, Henrietta calmly replied, adding, of course, only members of the United Nations will be invited to join. Non-members can only wait for the information within the conference to be released at a later date. However, if you can't wait for that, you can try searching for the outer beings with your own means. I believe with enough luck, you might just catch some sightings of one in the asteroid belt with a stargazer-type atomic visualizer, Henrietta mentioned. When Director Gardner heard Henrietta's suggestion, he smiled ruefully. A stargazer-type atomic visualizer could indeed help him see the asteroid field that lay far beyond Pangaea and the moon. However, without any information, Director Gardner would not know what he should be looking for, not to mention it was practically impossible to find anything small. Even looking for a needle in a haystack wouldn't be as difficult. Meanwhile, Henrietta glanced back at Director Gardner's silent expression. It seems you don't have anything to ask when the asteroid field is mentioned. Have you not used a stargazer-type atomic visualizer on the asteroid field before? Director Gardner was immediately startled by Henrietta's question, while the others grew interested in the topic. Is there something special about that particular space region of giant rocks, Your Majesty? Director Gardner asked. It seems your stargazer-type atomic visualizer is not that good if you think the asteroid field is just a space region of giant rocks. Henrietta shook her head disparagingly. Does nothing strike your mind and you think of life-destroying entities possibly being stations there? Even the moon, where the ruins of ancient supercivilization were found, had one. Well, I'll just tell you. That asteroid field is a graveyard of planets. Whatever life was there, they have all been destroyed by the outer beings. If you find the chance to visit that place one day, you find frozen corpses and ruins of the ancient supercivilization everywhere. My husband and great devil Hecate have both been there personally, and even they did not dare explore its depths, they only scavenged in its outer regions, Henrietta said. Director Gardner was immediately shocked senseless. The asteroid field was an extremely large region of space, spanning several 100 million kilometers. If there used to be planets there, they would have been countless times larger than Pangaea. Such large planets would also have high gravity. Thus, if life existed out there, far from the warmth of the sun, life must have been extraordinarily powerful. It was an especially powerful supercivilization that had already achieved interstellar travel and exoplanetary colonization, considering the ruins on the moon were previously mentioned. Yet, such a powerful supercivilization was destroyed along with its home. This is just mere speculation, but the remnants of the supercivilization may have escaped to Pangaea and set up some planetary-scale spirit-gathering formation to devour all the spirit energy, making Pangaea look like a dead planet to the outside world. That may be why, even though we were deprived of our rights to higher evolution, we were permitted to survive until now. After everyone heard Henrietta's speculation, they did not feel astonished or impressed. Instead, they felt a deep chill down their spine. After all, if the absence of spirit energy was the reason they could hide life, then what would happen to all the spirit energy production on the space station and moon base? Wouldn't it attract the so-called outer beings to exterminate them? The Black Rose Empire was dooming them all. Nevertheless, although many foreign guests felt angry after realizing what was happening, they did not dare express their anger, they could only show their discontent. After all, they were still in a foreign country. If they disrespect the ruler of the Black Rose Empire, they may not be able to make it home alive or in one piece. Nevertheless, Emperor Vaan noticed something crucial while he was listening to the question and answer session silently. They had been fixated on the problem, but the solution had not been proposed. Even the members of the United Nations weren't informed of it. That must also be why they were here. Your Majesty, what is the direction of the United Nations? Are we consolidating our power to face this extinction-level threat known as the outer beings? Emperor Vaan asked. Face the outer beings? You are mistaken, Emperor Vaan. Henrietta shook her head and said, the outer beings cannot be beaten. What my husband has encountered was only the weakest level among the outer beings. It was nothing more than a sentinel. The truly strong outer beings are capable of slaying god-level beings of this universe like ants. However, the great devils are also ants to those god-level beings. So do you understand how strong the outer beings are? It is impossible to win against the outer beings. The only thing we can do is leave Pangaea behind and carve out a new home for Pangeans in chaos. That is why we are taking on risks to strengthen our forces as quickly as possible. The world of chaos is not peaceful. Realm wars are frequently initiated without necessary justifications or reasons. That's why no one else will also condemn us for forcefully taking over a foreign territory for ourselves. However, the condition for us to do that is that we are strong enough to replace the existing local power. Everyone was immediately shocked by Henrietta's explanation. It was the boldest plan they had heard all day. Pangaea couldn't even get past Gehenna, so what made Henrietta think it stood a chance against the more distant realms? The further they want to migrate, the more powerful their opponents would likely be. You might think it's impossible, but it is the only option we have to survive. Compared to the undefeatable outer beings, facing the divine beings of chaos is much lower in difficulty. Moreover, we definitely possess the potential to grow as powerful as them and even stronger. My husband has already proven this possibility, and we will, too, in the near future. I, myself, have already become a late-stage transcendent witch, Henrietta announced. After throwing out another piece of shocking information, Emperor Vaan and the others were dumbfounded. Henrietta was able to match an early-stage demigod with just the cultivation of an early-stage transcendent witch. Now that she was a late-stage transcendent witch, didn't that mean she was as powerful as a late-stage demigod? It has been that long since she advanced to middle-stage transcendent witch. She was improving so fast. At this rate, it won't be long before they witness the birth of a divine witch. Of course, this was just Emperor Varen's thoughts. The others couldn't care less. They were more concerned about how they should deliver the information home to their country and convince their rulers to join the United Nations. After all, if they couldn't leave with the United Nations, they would be left behind. Henrietta made it clear that the United Nations wouldn't help anyone who wasn't one of their own. As such, once the outer beings tracked the scent of spirit energy to their world, everyone left behind would, without a doubt, die. However, every foreign representative had one main point of doubt even if they fled to chaos. How far and where could they go? Chaos supposedly had far more living beings there. Once the outer beings were done with Pangea and moved to chaos as well, who could stop them when Henrietta said even god-level beings couldn't? There were so many uncertainties, but they still felt it was more reassuring to stick with the majority of the human race. Even if they were fucked, they would at least be fucked together.